Okay, welcome everyone to this third podcast slash video in the series of MBHC, which stands for Making Better Health Choices, which is part of the People's Health Service, where we are encouraging people to take more responsibility for their health. And that covers a whole spectrum of complementary health and wellness practitioners, anything from growing organic food all the way up to helping people with complex psychological problems and things like, you know, massage and reflexology and all and everything in between. So it's a broad spectrum, and this series is about giving people the opportunity to hear people who have something of value to contribute and may help others to work their way through how they can improve their life and how they can live longer, healthier, happier lives. So today we've got Otis Ogle in the room. Hello, Otis. Now, this video has come about because I had a conversation with Otis the other week about the video I did with Caroline Byrne. Now, Caroline, if you've seen the second episode of this series, we were talking, well, I was doing a lot of talking, but we were talking about the fact that people are being told they've got to cook healthier, more nutritious meals. Now, we all know, we've all heard it, 5 a day, eat more vegetables, eat the rainbow, all this kind of conversation that goes on, which is all very well and good. And yet in the supermarkets, we've got whole aisle space allocated to ready prepared meals. We've got the failure and the contraction of, failure of markets in the high street, i.e. they're just not being used, so they go out of business. And supermarkets have an increase or decreasing space allocated to fresh food. And it basically isn't the simplest of things to get people to understand that the body can't count calories. What it does need is minerals and vitamins to enable it to produce new healthy cells, of which are replaced on a incredibly fast basis in our body. So we all know this. We all know the narrative. We all know that it's really good. But the reason I've got you on here today, Otis, is because you're exactly one of those people that I was thinking about when we did the last video, which is, you're busy, you're doing stuff, life's hectic, and you've got a kitchen. I can see it behind you, but it's like you've not really paid any attention to cooking because people have done it for you, or you've kind of never really cropped up in a need capacity for you. And you've been out with your mates, I've done it too. Go out, you have a drink, have a kebab, go out for breakfast in the morning, pizza for lunch, then, well, what should we do in the evening? And you just grab something on the move and life goes on. And, we spoke about soup and the need, but it's like, what's the problem exactly? You're epitome of the situation. What's stopping you from cooking food?
Well, I'd say so if I give you a little bit of a history behind it, because it's not always been as bad as it got in recent times, food-wise. So I think that having a goal associated to why you're eating the food that you're eating helps. So when I was younger and I was going to the gym, there was a real, I spent hours building Excel sheets that figured out how much protein I needed, how many carbs I needed, how much fat I needed, because there's double the amount of calories per gram of fat. I think that's right. But so I spent a lot of time doing that, which helped me with my motivation. So although I wasn't eating a wide variety of foods, I was eating, I was getting the things that I felt that I needed, certainly in that breakdown, but maybe not on a macronutrient level and maybe not on a vitamin level. So I think that can help, but the crux of the issue isn't necessarily rushing around and being busy, not for me per se. It was more exacting enjoyment out of the process of cooking in that kind of form, and learning to enjoy that process and learning to enjoy the fact that you know what's in the food. And I don't know when that happens for a person, but at a certain stage I started to recognize that what I put in my body had a direct result in how I felt and how I was able to operate, and even on a mental health side of things. And so it became apparent that I needed to concentrate and spend time focusing on what I was putting in my food. And so that's where I started learning more. And a great barrier to entry, like you've already mentioned, is the soup, because you see how many green and, wonderful vegetables go into it. And you just know that all of that goodness is making its way into your body. And that's never a bad thing. And,
not a barrier, it's an entry point.
So it's an entry point, but it gets rid of that barrier to entry, because it's such an easy thing to do. There is a lot of wiggle room. I started with making a broccoli one that you gave me the recipe for. And yeah, so I'd say that the issue is how do you find the motivation to go from the easy path that is to have, like buying I never really went for ready meals. I would go for things like southern fried chicken goujons and things like that. But I'd make things like fajitas, or I'd make things like tuna pasta bakes. So, but it's not a very, I didn't know much about the foods that I was putting in it. I didn't know the effect that it has on your body. So I'd say that's was the biggest one for me, was finding enjoyment in the process and the transition of actually thinking and linking how it affects your body.
So I know, like a while back when you were doing all the fitness stuff, you got a handle on carbohydrates and proteins and what they were. But I know up until quite a while, it's like, what's the difference between a carbohydrate and a protein? I remember that question you asked me, right? And you were early 20s.
Yeah, I mean, it was, that would have been when I started going to the gym.
Yeah, and then obviously you got involved in a keto diet and all this kind of stuff, and you started to investigate things at great length, almost to obsession, which is another story.
Yeah, it's pretty atypical of me.
but like, what's your attitude to equipment in the kitchen, and like because without equipment in the kitchen, it's harder. I remember when I went on a raw diet, and you need a Vitamix blender, which is a 500-pound blender, right? If you're going to go raw, you have to make that investment. If you don't make that investment, you will tire of making raw food. It's just not possible. You will wear yourself out trying to create it, because it's not easy and it's not fun, right?
Yeah.
So to cook, you need a certain basic level of things in the kitchen. Otherwise, there's nothing worse than cooking a fried egg on a pan that sticks. You end up having a war with the pan, and the egg looks like it's been through the World War II.
I mean, as I carry on learning to make new foods, I'm sure I'll find more and more things where I'll be like, oh, I could do with a better one of those, because it's never been anything that I've particularly, spent a lot of time considering as the equipment that I've got in there. I mean, I have like chopping boards that probably people would hate in there. One of them's like bowed slightly, so it's a pain in the arse. You have to get it the right way around, otherwise it's hopping around everywhere. So it's not something I've considered a lot. But what I do know is that, as with all of these things, certain amount, like some people might spend a lot of time doing the raw diet without investing in a blender to that degree, because they've got the time or the is aptitude the right word? But they just want, they're happy spending that time doing it. And
We don't have any electricity.
Because, yeah. But within that is the fact that it is, it depends on the person, you know, it depends how much time you have got available to you. So something like a soup where you allocate a certain amount of time once a week to make that soup so that it lasts the rest of the time, that's a good one. If you've got time to make something every day, or you know that you have a period of time that you always are cooking food or making food, then you're not good, you know, then you've got that. So I think it's creating the structures and creating the disciplines that are maybe needed surrounding food, especially if you want to eat healthier. You know, you're not just going to overnight suddenly be like, oh yeah, I enjoy cooking, and like spend an hour a day doing it. You know, you've got to utilize the tools and the structures and the disciplines personal to you to set up your own ability to tackle what you want to be tackled nutritionally for yourself.
So here's another one. If you like, when you go shopping, I mean, I'm not sure, I don't know much about how you do that, but when I go shopping, it's a bit like wearing clothes, I guess. I got a myriad of different. Oh look, there's a melon. Oh look, there's some spring onions there. Oh, because I go to different places, but they've got an avocado. All the while, I'm thinking in my mind, right, okay, what can I put that in? What could I do with that? How could I use that? Right. So when I've got it in the fridge, I have no individual recipe in my mind about what I bought for. All I know is that lot in that fridge, I can make a number of meals with. And I'm not following any recipes. They might say, oh, you've got to put mange two in this, right? Well, I'll put some cannelloni beans in or something. Because I know it isn't going to change the overall experience that much.
Yeah, see, that is a certain amount of knowledge, I reckon, that has to go into that. And that is a scary thing, you know. I think that people do I wrote that down while I was watching the video that you did. It's overwhelm.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, because honestly, I go around and there's only a certain amount of things that I buy because I know what they do. And I avoid things that I don't know what to do with. And if there was stuff lounging around, I mean, there never is, because I don't buy anything unless I know how to use it. So if there was stuff lounging around, I wouldn't know how to utilize it or use it. I wouldn't know how it works with other foods. I don't know if they go together. And I think Caroline nailed it in the video, and she said you just have to start with one dish or one recipe and grow from there. And as you broaden your horizons with these different dishes and how things work, you get more of an understanding of a wider variety of foods, so that when you are going through the shop and you see something, maybe it makes you think of that dish and you go, oh, I'll do that again. And then you go for the other bits that go with it, and it kind of comes with second nature. But it doesn't happen overnight. And so when I go into a shop and I'm walking through there, I'm not flexible in my thinking. It's like I've got a list and I know the dishes that I need to make throughout the week, and that's it. And I think within that is a little bit of people being afraid of things going wrong or being bad or not being good, or it completely ruining the dish. And there isn't much, and people think there isn't much flexibility in cooking.
Yeah, and if you make a mistake, it's like, I've got to throw all this away. Waste the time and the energy and the effort that's gone in.
And so the main problem with that is that it stops people starting. It's not that that's the main issue. Is it creates the conditions of overwhelm, thinking, oh, I'm never going to be able to learn all that. And then you never make one recipe. And if you don't start with the first recipe, you won't get to know in 5, and you won't get to know in 10, and you won't get to learn.
Some of the really important things, I think, if like a soup, right? That's fine, right? But then you can make, right, bit of garlic, bit of oil, bit of garlic, throw in a two chopped tomatoes, onions, and then a tin of tomatoes. Let that boil on a low heat for, I don't know, an hour, right? Just an hour. Maybe you could put 2 tins of tomatoes in if you want. Still the same, an hour, right? Let it boil away. That is a tomato base. From that tomato base, you can make chili, spaghetti bolognese, pasta bake, right? You can make a curry. You can make anything
Yeah,
almost
again, see, that's just a great thing to know.
from a tomato base, which is easy peasy lemon squeezy, especially at this time of the year when everyone's got like more tomatoes and they know what to do with.
Yeah.
You just make a few of these dishes up, stick them in some old takeaway boxes, whack them in the fridge or freezer, and then you just pull one out. I'm going to make a spaghetti bolognese. Pull one
So
out.
what was it again?
just just simple like garlic, couple of garlic cloves, 2 onions thinly chopped, chopped finely, and 2 tins of tomatoes, or maybe 8 big medium-sized fresh tomatoes. Just blend them up or chop them up, chuck them in there, and let it just simmer.
I'll mix
Now,
them off L and
yeah,
do
and then
that.
you can do right. You can stick 2 crushed chilies in there and make it a spicy dish. You can stick some rosemary in there and make it a savoury dish. You can stick some basil in there and make it a basil-y type of, you know, for pasta. And you can just bung pasta in and you can eat it like that because it
Yeah.
tastes. But the options that spin off just that basic, simple concept are you chuck some beef in there, make it a chili, or just, I'm gonna have a vegetarian one. So you bung in some um, kidney beans, cannelloni beans, and some what are those chickpeas. Just
Yeah.
chuck them in there, bung in some courgette, a bit of mushroom, and suddenly you got a nice meal.
Pretty substantial meal. Yeah, and I think that's the key is starting, not getting overwhelmed.
Yeah,
But it's in the other interesting side of it that you just mentioned there, which is something that's bogged me down as well. Is one is supermarket quality, and whether or not it's worth spending the time to go to a. I mean, this is just something that I've been deliberating recently, which is whether because it's a bit more of an ordeal to find a market, and then you got especially as a single person that lives on my own, I have to look at shelf life quite a lot because but the pack sizes that people come up with for some reason are always made for like 2, or or the recipes are pretty much designed for 2 people, and I know that you can always store the leftovers and use it another time, but it's that comes into it. Shelf life comes into it as a debate. So, and this is also like fruit is seasonal, isn't it? And vegetables, so it is seasonal, yeah. And there's something to be said about eating. So this is another thing that I want to learn that also puts me into a little bit of overwhelm, is that I'm like, strawberries are in the shops all year round, but when should I be buying them to make sure that they're not being
when they say English,
yeah. Oh, when they say English,
because that's in June. That's when they come out in June.
oh, okay.
And they'll say English because that's the cheapest ones to get, the English ones, because they're only up the road.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
they have to come in from Brazil or,
And those are going to be compromised on quality. But you take for example, like how do you know that as a teenager that's coming into going 18, 19, they're starting to do their shopping themselves, and they see that strawberries are in the shop. Nobody's told them, because you don't learn this stuff at school. Well, I didn't. So, like, I mean, I probably heard, it was probably mentioned, but by the time I got to 18, 19, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just thinking, I want to have strawberries in my porridge. I'm going to go buy some. Right?
well,
but
how I learned was my mum said, "Oh, why don't you just go and pick some strawberries out of the garden? Because then we can have some ice cream with it." That's how I learned.
But yeah. But that's what I'm saying. There's less teaching of this. Then there's less information out there. It's like, if you want to know, you'll go and find out. But it's never put out there, and it's never, it compromise quality? I guess that's my question. And is it worth only buying them?
The first thing is that if they're artificially produced, they're going to be filled with water and they're going to be ripened under artificial lighting. So they're not as good as the ones that are in the normal habitat.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, because in normal habitat, they're growing in the garden, they're growing on a farm, they've got the sun going on, they've got the rain going on, and what's growing there is growing in the place it's supposed to grow at the time it's supposed to be growing. So that's far better than artificially producing them in an environment that's not natural. But you know,
And the other,
come the winter time,
yeah,
you've got hard root vegetables. Now, these are normally harvested in September, October time, November even. But these vegetables don't go off if kept cold. Swede, parsnips, carrots, potatoes, right? These aren't your everyday stir fry vegetables
no,
because they take a while to cook, right? But that's why they're great for winter, because they're warming. They've got lots of carbohydrate in them. All root vegetables got full of carbohydrate, so they're warming and they fill you up. And they take a while to cook. So while they're cooking, the house is warming up as well. So if you think about the old times, you know, this was all, and soups were made with these things because it takes a while, hearty soups. So all these things, your Swedes, parsnips, carrots, yeah, you just, potato, you could chuck them all in a soup and they'll all cook slowly, but they'll all combine to make a really tasty, nice soup, which is ideal for winter. You just leave it there on the stove and just boil it up. And you can have a nice soup every day of the week.
yeah, no, I totally agree. And I guess, yeah, I mean, the bit within it is that as I find out more about the microbiome and the gut's role in our mental health, it makes me aware that quality and buying in season is important as well, because as you say, if it's synthetic stuff, if it's been synthetically made or manufactured in that kind of way, where it's belonging where it shouldn't belong, you know, then
this is why the markets are good. Because you go onto the market and cauliflowers are not in season, you'll pay £3 for a cauliflower. You go along when it's in season, they're trying to give them away for 90p or 80p.
yeah, so there's a certain amount of knowledge that has to go into that. Because if it's somebody that's new like me, you'll go down there and go, "Fuck me, their cabbages." Sorry, I swear, but their cabbages are super expensive. What's going on there? Because I'm none the wiser of the seasonal side of it.
Yeah, but yeah,
So,
you know, when they're in season, they're not expensive, but that takes a year to work out. You know, you go down there and the strawberries are £3 a punnet. Well, they're not in season. You go down there in the summer, the guy's giving 2 away for 20p at the end of the day because he can't get rid of them. If he takes them home tomorrow, they're in the bin.
yeah.
So it's just like, I've seen him, they've cleared the whole of the market. He's got a big pile of strawberries. He's just chucking them at people.
Well, it's what? So they go off the next day. This is the other side of it.
Well, they can't be kept, strawberries. You know, if you know, people aren't going to buy them if they look a bit manky.
No, I wouldn't.
So once they start looking manky, the game's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to buy him, so you have to give him. Yeah, he's basically giving away. He's made his money because he's made. You know, he's been selling them all morning for like £1 a punnet. Come the end of the day, he can't give them away for £1 a punnet. You know, nobody wants them.
Yeah.
But they're great. They're great for smoothies. They're great for, you know, they're great for juicing up and all. Yeah. So
I guess you can always freeze them as well.
yeah, but you know, you can make a smoothie and freeze it, can't you? You can make an ice cream. You know, if you take a banana, for example, peel the skins off, stick them in the freezer, bring them out of the freezer. It's like having banana flavored ice cream. So if they're going off, just stick them in the freezer. Take the skins off, stick them in the freezer. Right now the kids will love that, but they're eating a banana. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's loads of things you can do.
Yeah, so when it's in abundance is also the time to buy. I remember my mum. I remember this story because the lid flew off my my drinks dispenser. My mum got given like 15 kilograms, probably pounds in the day, but of lemons. So she decided she'd make a lemonade. So she just juiced it all up, put in the sugar, made lemonade. Yeah, made lemonade. Well, it was absolutely fabulous drink, right? Fabulous drink. Trouble is it started to ferment. So I was taking it to school and the lid shot off because it was fermenting and I was wearing it. Right. But because it got to the end of its life, the first 2 or 3 days you get away with it, but afterwards it starts fermenting. It's like drinking alcoholic lemonade.
It's like real, yeah.
It started to ferment and produce alcohol, you say. So, But you know, this time of the year, there's all these tomatoes around, there's all these courgettes around. You can make stuff with these things that'll help you through the winter. That's what people did in the old days.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that's kind of consciously what's kind of happening is people are, and I do agree with you. When you were weathering the weather more, when we talk about it in the olden days, it's like you can see that there would be a hearty soup going on to sort of like put that warmth in people. And I think that our ancestors used to do a great many of things with food that we've kind of fallen out of touch with, which absolutely served a purpose. And now that purpose is not being served because we're filling it with these void of nutrients, easy, because everybody's rushing around things, and it's causing problems, especially it contributes to problems. And I, for one, can account to that on a mental health capacity.
I mean, one of the things I always say is that the food you buy in the shops, right, is what the supermarkets display in the shops is not what's good for you, it's what's good for them, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is people who are making ready meals aren't making it because they want you to be the healthiest you can be. They're making it because it's the most profit they can make. Play that game against one where someone's bought the ingredients from a market and they've constructed a meal with love, and you're enjoying that. Herein lies the difference between these types of foods.
And I think as well, like once you've made the recognition that you're going to love yourself, I think it creates the dilemma that, if you're sat there eating your ready meal and you're going, I know this isn't doing good for me in my head. And as soon as you're on that path, it's fine, because you're going to start learning, you're going to start replacing that with healthier food because you recognize how much good it does for you. So loving yourself, almost, you start treating your body with more respect. And if you're treating your body with respect, you don't want to put that stuff in it.
I think I'm going to have to tell people to watch to the end of this video, because that's the most important point you've just said there. So watch right till the end. You know those videos, watch right till the
end. Yeah. Bombshell at the end or whatever. Yeah.
Because actually that's exactly it. If people don't care about themselves, they don't care about what they eat.
Exactly. And and it's not that that you can never have bad food that's bad for you. As I say, I believe everything in moderation. It's the same reason I think I'm similar to you. I won't go fully vegan, but I do have more plant-based food now, and I minimize the meat intake because I recognize that you can always dip and dive out of these things. It's moderation. Nobody's saying don't eat a ready meal ever again. It serves a purpose every now and again.
If you call it short out and the only thing that's open as a McDonald's 24/7 is 2 a.m, you're going to be
go eat. I'd be interested to know, and I don't know whether this is something that maybe you can include in the next one, but I'd be interested to know about frozen stuff and the quality of the nutrients and the vitamins, if it's better or not in frozen. Is it like frozen at source and therefore it captures more of that and it lasts longer? I
think the quality of frozen food, frozen vegetables anyway, is very good. I don't think they lose much because they basically pick it and process it quickly. So I don't think if you're buying a bag of cauliflower or buying a bag of broccoli, it's any way less good for you really than if you're buying fresh stuff.
Okay, that's good to know.
I would say that fresh stuff, probably if you get it really fresh, is really good for you. But how many times do we buy that food at that level unless we go to a farm shop and they've cut it off this morning? It's like it's probably, you could even argue that frozen food is more fresh and has got more vitamins in it, probably, although I don't do that because I don't have a freezer of any size. So I do generally. And the other thing is that fruit and veg doesn't know when it's gone off. It just goes rotten. So, I actually get quite a lot of food from ex-supermarkets and stuff where it's gone past its sell-by date, but the food itself is perfectly good. I mean, here we go. Here's a pack of grapes. Sell-by date 19th of August. What date are we on?
24th.
Perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't know what's on the label, does it? It's just going to do what it's going to do.
Exactly. No microchip in there saying time to go.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
So, I think we have to be reasonable about it.
Yeah.
And just take it, if there's and also, I know there are people that don't do this, but if there's a pepper and it's got a bit that's gone soft on it, I just cut it out, I just eat the rest of it. I don't eat the bit that's gone a bit wishy-washy, but why throw the whole thing?
I mean, I had an orange and there was a segment that was pretty foul looking. I just threw that segment away, but I still ate the rest of the orange.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. So thanks for that. I think it's insightful when we have to talk to Tom or somebody and just say, because really I knew where all the vegetables came from, and I knew when they were in season, and I knew how to prepare them. Not because I knew anything about cooking, not because I knew anything about what a decent meal was, but I learned all that just by being there, having to peel the blooming carrots because my mum asked me, "Oh, do the carrots." I don't want to do.
Right.
Can you come and help me dig up some potatoes? Not really, but pick some runner beans for me. Oh, we got runner beans again. Oh, yeah.
Oh, on them.
Yeah. So but I know what they all are.
Yeah.
And I think today, people growing up, they don't actually know what they are,
Yeah, there's less being taught about it, I think, or, less homesteading. Parents are handicapped in how much they can offer down, especially since they weren't taught as much as well, There's people my age that are parents that arguably might know as little as me about food, and they're not going to be able to then teach down to their kids or anything. So yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for coming on. That's the end of this third show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back shortly. I'm advertising for other Link for Business members who might like to join me on doing one of these and sharing their knowledge and their particular perception of where they're thinking. So if you fancy that, get in touch. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, and thanks, Otis, for coming on.
Cheers. Thank you very much.